Hey, welcome back to my channel Endless Pages. I'm Liv and welcome to today's video, a book haul. So in typical me fashion, I have wasted a shit ton of money this year on books. I was going really well. I was going really well with my book spending. I set a goal of, not a goal, I set a restriction. I said I could only purchase 30 books this year in total. And yeah, well, that was like 30 physical books. That wasn't including like ebooks, audiobooks, stuff like that. But yeah, I failed. I was going really well. I can't really remember what month I lost it. I think it was maybe like July, Augusty. I just one day snapped and was like, I want to go book shopping. And yeah, I haven't slowed down since then. So I thought I'd do a haul and show you guys all of the books that I have bought over the last couple of months. First up, we have Stolen Air by Holly Black. So this is a new series set in the same world as the other series, the Cruel Prince series. It's set about 8 years after the end of the final book in that series, which was called The Queen of Nothing. And this follows a character called Oak, who appears younger in that series. He's 17 now in this book, and this is a book about him. I don't really want to say the blurb. I don't think it's super spoilery, but just in case, I won't say the blurb of this book. But yeah, it's set after the end of Cruel Prince and follows along chronologically. I love the Cruel Prince series. They do have some problems with the last book of that series, and I've heard people have mixed opinions about this book, but I'm going to form my own opinion, and hopefully this will, because I mean I read the King of Elfhame, How the King of Elfhame Learned to Hate Stories, which was like a little novella set at the end of the Cruel Prince series, and that really redeemed the series for me, and I hope this continues to redeem it for me and not make me kind of dislike it again. Anyway, I have a mixed feelings about the Cruel Prince series. I love it, but there's parts that I really don't love, so if that makes sense. Yeah, so I'll be interested to see if this will be a 5-star or not. Next up, I got a graphic novel, and that is Across a Field of Starlight by Blue Delaquante. I've heard really mixed stuff about this. I think Sash, and I can't remember if it was Amy or Tracy, Sash and some other people said that they really didn't like this book. No, you know what? It was Ren. I think it was Sash and Ren both found this book like super confusing, which like makes me nervous, because if those two smart people find this book confusing, like what chance do I have? But this is basically a queer space book. We have Lou and Fazan. They're from different worlds and separate solar systems, but when there's something that keeps them in each other's orbit, something they don't want to let go of, when the war of Fazan's world invades Lou's peaceful home, they find themselves at the forefront of a battle they hoped would never happen. They finally have a chance to be together, but at what cost? So yeah, this is a romance between two non-binary characters. I got this book because I want to do like a queer science fiction reading vlog, and this book at my old library really caught my attention. But yeah, I'm nervous now because two people's opinion that I really trust were not a fan of this book. So yeah, yikes, I'm nervous for this one. Next up, I got a thriller that I've been wanting to read for so long, and it took me a while. Like, I would check Big W every couple of weeks, and finally in stock when I went to get it, and that is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This is about a housemaid who works for this wealthy family. Every day she cleans up after them, picks up her daughter from school, cooks for the family, and then she lives in the house as well. And the wife of this family, called Nina, is like, seems like really cruel, purposely makes messes so the housemaid has to clean it up, and like tells all these lies about her daughter. And then one day the housemaid is like trying on one of Nina's dresses, and Nina finds out, and by the time she realizes that her bedroom door only locks from the outside, it's far too late. And Then it says the Winchesters, who are the family that she works for, doesn't know who I really am. They don't know what I'm capable of. So I feel like this is kind of a revenge story. Like, you rich people mistreat me. Like, you're gonna regret that. So this is a super popular one. I feel like a couple of months ago, everyone was talking about this book. So I'm going in with quite high expectations. Next up was totally a cover buy, and that is Flower Heart by Catherine Bakewell. I got this book because I saw Sash from Sash Reads bought this, and I was like, that cover is stunning. I think this is a fantasy romance. This follows Clara, and Clara's magic has always been wild, but it's never been dangerous. A simple touch causes poisonous flowers to bloom in her father's chest one day. The only way to heal him is to cast an extremely difficult spell that requires perfect control, and the only person willing to help is the former best friend Xavier. I love that name, Xavier. Anyway, who's grown from a sweet, shy child into a mysterious and distant young man. He asks for a terrible price in return, knowing Clara will give anything to save her father, as she struggles to recognize the new Xavier with the boy she once loved. Ooh, is this going to be kind of enemies to lovers, maybe? She discovers their bargain is only one of the heavy secrets he's hiding. As she hunts for the truth, she instead finds the root of a terrible darkness that's taken hold in the queendom. A darkness only Clara's magic is powerful enough to stop. This sounds kind of like a stereotypical fantasy enemies to lovers romance, but I feel like I'll eat it up anyway, because, you know, I'm trash for that. Next up, I got a newish release, Dark Corners by Megan Golden. This is the sequel to one of my favourite reads of the year, The Night Swim, and that was about this podcaster who was going to this small town to report on this rape trial that was happening in the town. And on her way, she's kind of a really, really famous podcaster. Like, she has a top true crime podcast, but she's quite private about her life. So, like, everyone knows her voice, but she doesn't put her face on any social media, so no one should know who she is. And she finds a note on her window, like, addressed to her, about this woman that lives in this small town that she's going to, that the rape trial's happening in. And she's like, my sister died years ago, like, died, but I know the truth about what happened. She didn't die. I believe she was murdered. Can you investigate it? So she goes to this small town, and kind of it's flickers back and forth between the rape trial and letters, continual letters from this girl about her sister. And yeah, you see both investigations kind of happening at the same time. Absolutely beautiful, really, really rough read. Trigger warning for heavy discussions about rape. And that was a fantastic book. Fantastic book. So this is its sequel. We follow the same podcaster, but this is a new investigation. This is about a guy called Terence Bailey. He's about to be released from prison for breaking and entering, though investigators have long suspected him in the murders of 6 women. As his release date approaches, he gets a surprise visit from Madison Logan, a hot young influencer with a huge social media following. Hours later, Madison disappears, and police suspect she's been kidnapped or worse. So they need to figure out, is Madison's disappearance connected to her visit to Bailey, and why was she visiting him in the first place? When it hits a wall, the investigation, the FBI asks for Rachel Crowell, who is the podcaster, help in finding the missing influencer. But this Madison influencer seems to only exist on social media. Nothing's known about her family, her friends, and who she really is. So Rachel goes undercover to BuzzCon, a popular influencer conference, where she discovers a world of fierce rivalry that may have turned lethal. And then the police find a body of a woman with a tattoo of a snake eating its tail, identical to the tattoo Rachel had seen on Bailey's hand. The FBI must consider a chilling possibility. Bailey has an accomplice on the outside and a dangerous obsession with influencers, including Rachel herself. Suddenly the target of a monster hiding in plain sight, she is forced to confront the very real dangers that lurk in the dark corners of the internet. So it sounds like a completely different tone, and maybe less, well, it's still kind of like a social commentary, but rather than being a commentary on rape and how rape trials are covered in her first book, that this is more a commentary on social media and the dangerous world of social media. So I feel like it's going to be so different, but I loved the first book, so I'm willing to give this one a red hot go. Then I got Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Okay, so this is a new series set in the world of the From Blood and Ash series. So the author's done a very, very sneaky, and you have to read this new series if you want to continue on with the From Blood and Ash series, which I think is a very, very, very sneaky thing to do, but also very clever, and you got my money, so it worked. I am going to read this book. So I don't really know much about the plot of this book. I feel like it's set like years and years and years and years before From Blood and Ash. If someone could explain it to me, that would be appreciated. But yeah, this is the first book in the Flesh and Fire series. I think it's about a maiden, which there's a maiden, Poppy, who's the main character of the From Blood and Ash series. I think it's one of the maidens long before her. So I mean, the blurb does kind of sound quite similar to the structure of the From Blood and Ash series, but I won't read it just in case spoilery. But you're so clever making me read this book if I want to continue with the Blood and Ash series. It better be as smutty as the From Blood and Ash series. It better be worth it. So next up I got Jane Harper. So I got the third and final book in the Aaron Falk series. That makes me so sad. So this series is like the dry forces of nature, and then this book, Exiles. Yeah, this series follows Aaron Falk, and he each book is like a different investigation set one after the other. This final one is set in South Australia, in wine country, at a busy festival. They find a baby lying kind of alone in a pram with the mother have vanished. And then it's a year on, the mother Kim's absence casts a long shadow as her friends and loved ones gather deep in the heart of Australian wine country to welcome a new addition to the family. Then Aaron Falk, the investigator, is joining the celebrations, but as he soaks up life in the lush valley, he begins to suspect this tight-knit group may be more fractured than it seems. As hidden truths slowly emerge, Falk faces the darkest of questions. So this one was shortlisted for the ABR Awards, which is the Australian Book Industry Awards. So I have loved all of Jane Harper's books so far, and I really hope this Aaron Falk series kind of ends with a bang. I also got The Lost Man by Jane Harper and The Survivors by Jane Harper. So these are not part of the Aaron Falk series, they're just their own stories. I've already read The Lost Man and absolutely adored it. 5-star. It's definitely my favourite Jane Harper so far. This is set on like properties in like, you know, the middle of nowhere Australia. I want to say this was set in Queensland, I can't remember, but yeah. This is about two brothers, and one is found dead, and it's believed that he walked to his death, kind of committed suicide with no water in the middle of the outback. But did he really commit suicide or not? And you follow from the perspective of his brother. I will tag in the cards the video where I review this book, because my god, it's incredible. And then The Survivors is the other kind of standalone novel. This is about Kieran Elliott. His life changed forever on the day a reckless mistake led to devastating consequences. The guilt that still haunts him resurfaces when he and his young family visit his parents in the small coastal community he once called home. Between them all is an absent brother, Finn. When a body is discovered on the beach, long-held secrets threaten to emerge, a sunken wreck, a missing girl, and questions that have never washed away. So yeah, I got all of these Jane Harpers, and now I have all of her kind of recent works. Yeah, because I'm literally now obsessed with her, and she's now one of my favourite authors. Next up, I just got my own copy of Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. I picked this up, I think, for the plus size readathon, I want to say, because I needed I needed to fill a prompt. I can't remember what the prompt was. But yeah, I read this and absolutely loved it, but I borrowed it from the library, and I wanted my own copy because I want to definitely continue on with the series. But this is basically about Chloe Brown, who is a chronically ill computer geek, and after a near-death experience, she writes a list of things she wants to do to get a life, and she lists the help of her kind of enemy who lives in the building she lives in to help her complete the items on this list, and it's enemies to lovers and chronic illness rep, and it's bloody adorable and a little bit steamy, and yeah, I will put up in the cards. I don't know if I read this in a vlog or a wrap up, whatever. I'll put it in the cards, my thoughts about this book. Then we have another thriller. This is Drowning by TJ Newman. This is about a plane crash. This is set 6 minutes after takeoff. Flight 1421 crashes into the Pacific Ocean during the evacuation. An engine explodes and the plane is flooded. Those still alive are forced to close the doors, but it's too late. The plane sinks to the bottom with 12 passengers trapped inside. More than 200 feet below the surface, engineer Will Kent and his 11-year-old daughter Sharon, are waist deep in water and fighting for their lives. Their only chance at survival is an elite rescue team on the surface led by professional diver Chris Kent, Shannon's mother, and Will's soon-to-be ex-wife, who must work together with Will to find a way to save their daughter and rescue the passengers from the sealed airplane, which is now teetering on the edge of an undersea cliff. There is not much time, there is even less air. I am currently obsessed with like closed space, like thrillery stuff, just that like thought of people being trapped. I don't know, it's just like such a fun genre for me to read because it's so intense and like makes you like physically like cringe at the thought of it. I don't know, yeah, enclosed space thrillers, anything to do with that, I love. Like trapped in one location, like I read that book Breathless earlier this year and loved that, like trapped on a mountain. This one's trapped in a plane, kind of reminds me a bit of the show Vigil as well, which I loved, that trapped on a submarine. So I love anything to do with that, so I feel like I'm gonna absolutely eat this up. Next up, I picked up As Long as the Lemon Tree Grows by Zuluf Kataw. This is a historical fiction, I think, romance set in Syria. I thought when I saw that it was set in Syria that it was important that I read it and kind of expand my horizons a bit with I guess the representation of the books I read and reading, you know, expanding my horizons. I haven't read a book, I don't think, that's ever that it's been set in Syria, so it's important to read more diversely. So I thought this one would be a great one because I've heard it's absolutely beautiful writing and heartbreaking. We follow Salama, and she watched her brother marry her best friend Layla and wondered when her own love story might begin. And that was a year before the revolution. Now she works at a hospital helping those she can. Layla and her unborn baby are all that she has left, unless you count Huaf. He's a hallucination though, a symptom of the horror she's seen. Every day he urges her to leave Syria, every day she refuses. And then she crosses paths with the boy called Keenan, the boy with the vivid green eyes who wants to stay and risk his life for everything their country could be. Next up, I think this is like a young adult horror kind of book. This was just kind of a random buy. I hadn't heard of this book before and I just happened to see it at Big W for $12, and the cover, I saw the cover and I was like, that's sick. This is by Trang Thang Tran. The blurb says this house eats and is eaten. This summer Jade has one goal: to survive living a lie with her sister and their estranged dad while he fixes up a decaying colonial house in Vietnam. If she can be straight enough, Vietnamese enough, American enough, then college and freedom will be hers. But when the house has other plans, dead bugs line the windowsill and its gardens grow monstrous blooms. Then the ghost of a beautiful bride gives Jade a cryptic warning: don't eat. With the help of the rebellious local girl Florence, Jade is determined to prove the house is haunted and that it won't rest completely until it consumes her family. So this sounds like queer, haunting, scary, spooky book. So I'm terrified because, yeah, this book I feel like is going to scare me. Next up I got firstly Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is obviously one of my favorite series ever. I've already read this book and I think at the time I borrowed it from the library, so I didn't have the complete collection, and now I do. I have the complete collection of the trilogy. You probably heard me talk about this series a million times, but the first book, Good Girl's Guide to Murder, is a young adult series about a girl called Pip who, for her school project, investigates the this murder of this girl called Andy Bell that happened in her town, and she believes that Andy's boyfriend, who's was found kind of guilty of killing her but committed suicide. She believes that he didn't actually kill Andy Bell, and decides to investigate the murder for her school project. Yeah, so Good Girl, Bad Blood is like the second book in the series, and I also got this. Oh my god. So I got this special collector's edition of The Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Look at it, look at it. It's absolutely stunning, and like the end pages, oh, look how cool that is. All the way from England, and it came so quickly. It came so quickly. So yeah, this is like a special collector's edition, and she's beautiful. Next up, a fantasy like book that everyone's been talking about, Threads That Bind. This is a book that seems to be everywhere at the moment, especially on TikTok, I feel. This is in the city of Atlantis. The descendants of the Greek gods live alongside mortals. We have Lo, who is descended from the Fates. She can see like threads connecting people. When a relationship is formed, a new thread appears, and when a person's life is cut, it's their time to die. One night she witnesses a violent, mysterious murder along with Eddie, a member of a dangerous mob who rule Atlantis. What she can see immediately, although he cannot, is that there is a bright silver fate thread connecting them. The boy is her destiny. Say no more. They're thrown together to solve the case, and as she grapples with the secrets lurking beneath Atlantis' surface, she must decide whether to embrace her fate and give in to a growing desire for him, or whether to cut the thread and set him free. Right, second last, we have Ace of Spades by Amanda Foody. This is a book that I have been wanting to pick up for a while. It sounds totally my cup of tea, but it was very hard to find because it's currently not in print. Which sucks because I thought this was like a really well-known book, but whatever. So this says, welcome to the city of sin, where casino families reign, gangs infest the streets, and secrets hide in every shadow. We have N.A., who was raised as a proper young lady, and no young lady would willingly visit New Reigns, this so-called city of sin, but when her mother goes missing, she must leave her finishing school and her reputation behind to follow her mother's trail to the city where no one survives uncorrupted. Frightened and alone, she has only one lead, the name Levi. Unfortunately, he's not the gentleman she expected. He's a street lord and a con man, running a rapidly unraveling investment scheme. She offers compensation, however, that could be the solution to all of his problems. As she unearths an impossible secret about her past, Levi's enemies catch up to them, ensnaring them in a vicious execution game where the players always lose. To save him, she will need to surrender herself to the city, and she'll need to play. How bloody good does that sound? That sounds so fun. I feel like I'm gonna absolutely fly through this book. It sounds so fun, and maybe like enemies to lovers, and he's gonna corrupt her a little bit, and I can't wait. Finally, we have Seven Devils by Laura Lamb and Elizabeth May. I have been wanting to read this book for so long and buy it, but to me, the paperback cover is so ugly, so I had to wait until I could get my little hands on the hardback cover, because it's got like all of the crew on the cover. It's like a space opera, I think, and I think there might be even queer rep. I could be wrong, but I feel like there's some form of queer rep in this book. This is the first book in the Seven Devils series. When Eris faked her death, she thought she had left her old life as the heir of the galaxy's most ruthless empire behind. But her recruitment by the Nova Tay Resistance, an organization opposed to, while there's a lot of sci-fi words in this, Tholosian's empire, vicarious expansion, throws her right back into the fray. Eris has been assigned a new mission to infiltrate a spacecraft ferrying deadly cargo and return the intelligence she gathers to the Resistance. But her partner for the mission, mechanic and hotshot pilot Kalia, bears an old grudge against Eris, making an already difficult mission even more complicated. When they find the ship, they discover, even more than they bargained for, 3 fugitives with first-hand knowledge of the Empire's inner workings. Together, these women possess the knowledge and capabilities to bring the corrupt regime to its knees. But the clock is ticking. The new Tholosian heir plans to disrupt a peace summit with the only remaining alien civilization, ensuring the Empire's continued expansion. If they can find a way to stop him, they will save the galaxy. If they can't, millions may die. So maybe it's enemies to lovers queer? I don't know, anything to do with misfit crew in space, fighting an evil empire. It's me. It's me. I love it. I love it so much. So I hope to love this. I really, really, really hope to love this, because girls fighting corruption in space is just, it's a recipe for a good book. So as you can see by the amount of books I told you about, I have utterly lost control of my book spending, and will make no attempts to calm down. I will continue to probably spend recklessly for the rest of the year, so yay. Let me know in the comments below, have you read any of the books that I've hauled? Which ones should I prioritize? Which ones did you think sounded interesting? Yeah, let me know in the comments below. Give this video a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you would like to see more of my content. All my social media links are in the description below, and I will see you in whatever the hell I post next. Bye!